power is a really big part of our lives. Either having power over others or being under the power of others is a big factor in everyday life for people. But to a large degree, we don't examine that. We don't look at what that means and how it's shaping our lives. And so for me, it's very important to begin to have a conscious conversation about how power operates. And one of the characteristics of power is that if you are the person with power, that you may be unconscious when your power is operating. It happens with parents in regard to their children. It happens with judges in regard to other people. That if you have a certain kind of status and function in society that has power attached to it, that power will operate even when you're not in necessarily the space that you associate with the power. So there's an invisibility around power in our culture. And the only way you can really know about that is to get feedback from those people who feel under the power. The people who feel that power operating on them are very clear and very knowledgeable about how that power operates. The people with power are often not knowledgeable about how the power operates. And so you need a feedback mechanism if you want to be clear about when your power is operating, because there are many times that power causes harm and the person holding the power is unconscious. They don't realize they're actually causing harm with their power, and they don't intend to cause harm. But if you don't know, you can't correct it. And so you need mechanisms for feedback around power. So the circle process is particularly good for doing that, because the circle equalizes power relative to other contexts. It doesn't achieve absolute equality because you can't undo everything in our structures. But the circle can definitely create a space where people are more equal in power than they are in other places. And in that space, we actually could get honest feedback from the people who experience being powerless and how the power impacts them. And in that way, there's a very different experience of power in the circle process. And that it's actually a place for us to practice what would it feel like if we had a more equal distribution of power, so that we can begin to examine, does this feel better? Does it access things that we don't access in our other kinds of structures, particularly in our hierarchies? And I believe that one of the things that it accesses is more wisdom. That when we don't have structures of higher and lower power, people are more free in their brains. The brain is not as caught up in vigilance and in a circle. If you don't have to worry about that because you're not in the powerless position, you're just equal to others, then a lot more of the brain is freed up. And so we have the potential for accessing a lot more collective wisdom in the circle. And so we can be in healthier relationship with one another and not be in relationships where people are feeling upset or annoyed because someone else has power over them, or people with power are always fearful of losing their power. The differences in power create all kinds of disruptions to healthy human relationships. And the more equal we can be in power, I think the more healthy our relationships will be.